great first chapter or first book of the Bible. And it's been an adventure. I hope that I have presented it in such a way that kind of made you feel like you were right there with the players, with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob as they went through their journeys and traveled. And I hope that after this study you have a better understanding not only but also of how gracious and good God is, and especially how He keeps His promises. You know, the whole way through it, He's telling all of these patriarchs, He told Adam, He told Noah, trust me, is basically what He was saying, trust me. And the study of Genesis is a good follow-up to the study of Revelation that we did. So as a church, we have studied the beginning of time and the beginning of God's covenants, the beginning of what God's plan was, the planned way of salvation and leading up to it. We have seen how Jesus Christ is pretty much in every page of Genesis. He's all over it. Everything, it points to Jesus. And then when we studied our Revelation, we found out that it was the culmination of a lot of these promises. It's a lot of these promises being fulfilled with the millennial reign, etc. And so it has been for me, it's been a fun study. This is one that I have thoroughly enjoyed. I have learned a lot going through this and teaching it. And so I hope that y'all have enjoyed it just as much as I have, because this has definitely helped me understand the Old Testament a little bit better. And every time we study something, we learn, and we'll start to read now in Kings or Joshua or Numbers, and now you have that baseline of the patriarchs, the tribes, and you have that. So you'll have that with you forever, I hope. Tonight we're going to be starting in chapter 49. And a lot of people would go through chapter 49 and not really understand it. They would say, is this one of those begat chapters, begat, begat, begat? But it's not. It's a passing on of judgment and blessing and all kinds of things for the sons of Jacob. And Brother Trenton, if you'll look on Google Slides, I had shared at one time a slideshow called The 12 Tribes of Israel. And if you can find that for me, I would appreciate it. I gave you some homework the last time we were here. Who remembers what it was? Well, yeah, what the animal or the symbol that represents each tribe, right? So did anybody figure it out? Did anybody research it? And if you will share that with whoever's viewing at home, if you can do that, I'd appreciate it. So we'll do a quick review just off of the slides, if that's okay with y'all. That way you'll have a visual, you will hear it, you will have read it, so it should stick, right? Okay, 12 tribes of Israel. Next slide, please. All right, it starts with Abraham. Does everybody know who Father Abraham is? All right, good. Next slide. God's covenant. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So that was the big one. And that last line there, all families on the earth shall be blessed. Who's that talking about? Jesus Christ, right? Through Jesus Christ, we will all be blessed. Next slide. There's your patriarchs. Now, is that how they actually looked? I don't know. It was a pretty cool picture I found, and I just put their names over it. But so that's the father, the son, and then the grandson. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay? Next slide. There is their travels, where they have traveled from. We have went through every name, every word in the book of Genesis. And you can see over on the east side, Ur. I told you I had been stationed there. And that's where the ziggurat of Ur is, which is a pagan temple. And then about 1,600 feet away was Terah's house, which was Abraham's father. And he went around the Fertile Crescent. They stayed up in Haran at the very top. And then after his father Abraham's father died, they went on down to the southwest, down to where we know Israel is, the land of Canaan. And then it also shows Isaac and Jacob as well, and how they traveled back and forth, to Uncle Laban and stuff like that. Next slide. And this is just some Bible verses that show how God was with them and made the covenant with each one of them as it passed along. Next slide. These are Jacob's wives, okay? Now, who was his first wife? Leah. He thought he was going to get Rachel, right? But if he agreed to work 7 more years, he could get Rachel, and he did. So he kind of got both wives within like a month there. It was pretty quick. And at the bottom there, you see the sons that we've been studying. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun. They all were born of Leah. Gad and Asher were born of Leah's handmaid, Zilpah. And then you had Rachel. Why was Rachel special? Because he loved her, right? She was number one. She had Joseph, and then she had Benjamin. And you can see the many colors on Joseph because of the coat of many colors that his father had presented him. And then Dan and Naphtali were born to Bilhah, her servant. Next slide. And again, oldest to youngest. Now, where have we seen them ordered oldest to youngest before? Where did we read that? When Joseph was in Egypt, right? And he was like Pharaoh's right-hand man, and he sat them at the table in accordance to their birth. So, yeah. Next slide. All right, here you go. He prophesied over his 12 sons, okay, in Genesis 49. And it kind of shows here, you got the donkey, you've got the deer, you've got the lion of Judah, and so the serpent, which is Dan. And so it kind of gives their symbology here. Zebulun, they were going to be wayfarers kind of with water to trade. And so it kind of indicates which one. And as we read through here, you'll see kind of what Jacob compares them to. Next slide. And that's just some data. Joseph received the double portion. Jacob then elevated Ephraim and Manasseh to the status of full tribes after Reuben lost his birthright because of his transgression with Bilhah. Remember, he slept with his father's concubine there. The Levites were identified as the priests. And so, did they receive an inheritance when Moses led them out of Egypt and then Joshua took them into the promised land? No, they did not receive an inheritance. Okay? Those are 2 sons of Joseph, right? Because got the double portion. Next slide. That shows you how the land was divided. Once Joshua went in, started with Jericho, and then as they went through the book of Joshua and as they conquered the lands, that is how the land was pretty much split up to start with. So just kind of give you a visual. And that's Israel is what that is. Next slide. Jesus was from the tribe of Judah. Paul was from the tribe of Benjamin. John the Baptist from the tribe of the Levites. The 12 tribes are mentioned in Revelation chapter 7, verses 5 through 8. But they are not the same tribes that inherited land. Ephraim is listed under Joseph's name, and instead of Dan, Levi is included. Okay? So the names, depending on where you look at in the Bible, sometimes shift up. And there's a reason for that, but we're not going to get into that because that's another study. Next slide. All right, good. So that was a brief recap of where we kind of come with the tribes, okay? All right. In this chapter, we find that God is going to continue His plan for the nation of Israel, okay? And He's going to talk about the destinies of each one of the tribes, which are the sons. He's going to talk about that. We know that when patriarchs or when the men when the wives would give birth, sometimes they would name them based on the current situation that was happening, right? Like, God has judged me, so the son was called Judge, to judge, right? And then sometimes it was because of heel grabber or something. And sometimes it was indicative of the traits or the characteristics of one of the sons. So we see that naming was very important. We also find out that when God is working with the patriarchs or with whoever, with Noah, He deals with them based on how obedient they are. So like Noah, was Noah obedient? Was he faithful? Yeah, so there was no conflict. He just, what do you want me to do? And he did it, right? And his family was saved. He was carried to the other side of the flood. He escaped that judgment. But as you go on to these sons especially, some of their moral decisions were not the best. And God had to deal with them to make sure, look, if I'm going to build a nation out of these 12 sons of Jacob, I got to iron some things out or I'll start all over. So you can see through their trials, through the famine, through their interactions with Joseph, that some of these things started to be ironed out a little bit, okay? Were they perfect? No. Did their past haunt them? Yes. And a lot of times they were known by that, as we'll see when we get further into the chapter here. Chapter 49 is going to include blessings, cursings, judgments, and even it'll talk about some promises. Okay, I can't wait till we get to verse 10, I think it is. That's a good one. And as Jacob is blessing his sons, you can kind of see him having that promise that God made him. That from your loins a mighty nation would be born. That the whole world would be blessed. And so as we read this, yes, he'll say some good things about some sons, some bad things, but he's looked like, I know it's going to happen. I know y'all are going to go back and get the land of Canaan. I know that because God had said it. So you can kind of see him, the hope that he has for that. And then also as we look at this in a way, God hands out these destinies to the tribes as encouragement to continue on and to show them he had a plan and he had planned for the future of Israel. So it weren't just a dad saying, hey, you can have the car, you can have the swing on the tree, you can have the favorite broom. No, this was also letting them know God's got a plan. He's had a plan the whole time. He still has a plan. And one of the most important things to understand is God was letting them know through these blessings that, hey, yes, you are in Egypt right now. And that's not the promised land. And yes, I've been promising it since Abraham. But God does things on His own time. But what He is telling them and what He told Jacob was look, your people are not going to stay in Egypt. They're going to be there a while. They're going to even be under captivity, slavery. But I will bring them back. And so Jacob knows that, so he has that hope. And he's going to evaluate his sons one by one here, and he talks to them. All right, let's look at verses 1 and 2. I better move along because we got 2 chapters to cover. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. Is Jacob close to death? Yes. Matter of fact, before we finish this chapter, he's going to die. I'm just letting you know. For a little foreshadowing there. But he had already called Joseph in, right? And remember, he brought Manasseh and Ephraim, gave him the double portion. So I think the family knew he was about to pass. He calls them in, and he's going to tell them, this is what's going to become of you. For some of them, it ain't too good, but for the other ones, it's really good. Let's look at 3 and 4. Now this is Jacob speaking to him. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength. the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. He was the firstborn, right? Unstable as water, thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed, then defilest thou it. He went up to my couch. Y'all remember that? You know, many scholars think he tried to usurp the authority of his father and kind of go ahead and take over. Well, that didn't work. But he slept with his father's concubine, Rachel's handmaid. That was a big no-no. Jacob did not forget that. That was a transgression that he did not forget. He started off by praising him, but it quickly turned to, you're like water. And so picture like boiling water, how it's bubbling and splashes, and he's like, you're in turmoil. Don't know what you're going to do here. Now he was originally the firstborn, so he was entitled to the double portion, but he lost it. He gave it up. Now, as far as this foreshadowing goes, this prophecy goes, in the book of Judges, chapter 5, verses 15 and 16, and I'll read it to you. Judges chapter 5, verses 15 and 16. So we're in the future here now, right? In the Bible, in Judges. Okay. And the princes of Issachar were with Deborah, even Issachar and also Barak. He was sent on foot into the valley. For the divisions of Reuben there were great thoughts of heart. The divisions of Reuben. So, why abodest thou among the sheepfolds, to hear the bleatings of the flocks? For the divisions of Reuben there were great searchings of the heart. So Reuben had kind of split up a lot. It weren't as held together as the other tribes. So, that's why he's saying unstable as water. He will not excel. All right, verses 5 through 7. Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly, mine honor. Be not thou united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they digged down a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. So, what did Simeon and Levi do? Yeah, that whole area, Shechem, right? The king of Shechem and his father. Remember, they said, hey, Shechem kind of defiled their sister Dinah, right? Okay. The brothers were angry about it. And so they come up with this silly plot like, hey, I'll tell you what. We'll let you marry if you go back and circumcise not only yourselves, but all the men in your town. And they did. And when they were still recovering, these two went in there with their servants, I'm sure, and killed all the men. And took their wives. I mean, it was wicked. It was wicked. And I wrote down here, God distinguishes holy war from vengeance. There is a difference. What these two brothers did was wrong. And it said their future was to be one of division. And both tribes were later scattered. Joshua chapter 19, verses 1 and 9 reads like this. And the second lot came forth to Simeon, even for the tribe of the children of Simeon according to their families, and their inheritance was within the inheritance of the children of Judah. Out of the portion of the children of Judah was the inheritance of the children of Simeon. For the part of the children of Judah was too much for them. Therefore the children of Simeon had their inheritance within the inheritance of them. So even when Joshua was handing out the inheritance, it's like he remembered what Jacob had said, they had, because they were passing this stuff along too.
So that was Joshua 1:9?
I think that's what it said. Let's see. Joshua 19, 1 and 9.
1 and 9.
Yep. Levi was afforded an honorable dispersion because it was the priestly tribe. Levi's tribe was, you're the priests, right? And basically the other tribes were going to work and make offerings to the temple, and that's how the Levites primarily survived, off of the offerings, and they were able to eat that. And they did not receive an inheritance. And in Joshua chapter 21, we read how when the land was divided up, based on the map we saw, when Joshua divided up the land, he said, the Levites went to him and said, hey, we don't have anywhere. Everybody's got land. I know we don't, but so every tribe cut out some cities for them and said, you can have these cities. You can dwell within our land in these cities, but that's where you can build, that's where you can live and do y'all's this thing. Yeah, the cities were apportioned to them from the other tribes. All right, everybody following me so far? All right, got 3 down. Verses 8 through 12. I like this one. Judah. Does that ring a bell? Who's from the tribe of Judah? Jesus is, right? Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion and as an old lion. Who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. And until him shall the gathering of the people be, binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. Who wants to explain that one? Brother Johnny, you want to give that one a try?
Well, I'll just fix to appoint you.
You appointing me to do it? All right. So Jacob is telling of the dominance that Judah will have over the rest of his brothers here and his enemies. There are some phrases, as we read that, you're probably like, I don't know what that means. Why are you tying your goat up to a vine? What's going on here? I don't understand it. So here's a phrase. The scepter shall not depart, nor a lawgiver from between his feet. Anybody? Yeah, Jesus will be the king. He is from the tribe of Judah. Most scholars equate this phrase with the right to apply and enforce Mosaic law, which includes carrying out capital punishment, the death sentence. So they're basically the leaders. They're the government. They're the people in charge. So for example, if you're trying to execute a decision in the place you work, but you have to get permission from somebody else, you don't have the scepter. You understand what I'm saying? You don't have that scepter. But whoever the person is that don't have to ask anyone else because they're in charge, they have the scepter. So view it that way, okay? That's probably the easiest way to understand that. Well, they'll pretty much, yeah. I mean, there will be other tribes where kings will come from, the Benjamites, Saul, but this is where the people were. That's the seat of power. That's like Jerusalem, that's that area, and most of the people and Jesus was from Judah. So they're definitely talking about Jesus here. But it says something very interesting after that. It says, until Shiloh come. Who wants to take a guess at Shiloh? What is that? Who? What did you say? Jesus? How many think it's Jesus? Who's ever heard his name is Shiloh? Then you are correct, brother. And you are correct, sister. It's the Messiah. It is the Messiah. Now, if you go back to the original, okay, the original text, it literally means to whom it belongs or whose it is. right? So when it says until Shiloh comes, it means like that scepter, that authority, it will not leave until he comes, until the Messiah comes. Okay, you following me? Okay. Putting these phrases together and putting it in Lake Swamp layman terms, this is what I wrote down. The right to enforce Mosaic law and capital punishment would not depart until the Messiah would come. Does that sound right? I might be trying to trick y'all here. Well, let me ask you this. When Herod was ruling over Israel, could the Jews enforce capital punishment? Could they carry out the death sentence? The Jews, the priests. What's that? They didn't have that right. Why? Because Caesar wouldn't allow it. The Romans would not allow it. They were in control of Israel. And they're like, you will not carry out any death penalty. Why do you think they went to him to get Jesus to be killed? Because they weren't allowed to do it. They had to go to the Roman authority to get permission that he be put to death, so that they would put him to death. Now, did they do sometimes kill people unlawfully? Yes, they would pick up stones and, because if you got a mob and you stone them, it's like, who are you going to charge, That's right. Yeah. So, now that was a significant tragedy. Not the death of Jesus. That was not a tragedy. That was a victory. The tragedy was all those Sadducees, Pharisees, they knew their Bible, right? Oh, I know my Bible. Do you think they knew chapter 49 of Genesis? Yes, they did. They knew the story of Joseph, right? Well, they didn't know it chapter verse, but they knew the story. They knew what Jacob had said to his sons. The scepter shall not pass until the Messiah comes. At that point, they were like, we've lost the ability to enforce Mosaic law. We can't put people to death. And the Messiah is not here. Do you know what that means to them? It means the word is broken. The perfection of the Bible, of God's words, has been broken. It was a big deal. That was a big deal. For the Jews at the time, it was a significant tragedy. The Jerusalem Talmud is a collection of rabbinic notes on the 2nd century oral tradition known as the Mishnah. Okay? So the priests back then, the Levites, but they were Sadducees, Pharisees, they had the written law, but they also had verbal oral traditions that they passed on. Like don't pick up your bed, or other little things that they had, they would verbally pass them on, kind of for control of the people, if you will. But they would pass them on. And part of their traditions, they were passed down that way. So the Jerusalem Targum, or Talmud, that's what that is. Okay? It was a collection. And within that collection of historical writings that exists, it talks about them being upset because of this. And it said that the priests marched around Jerusalem when Rome came in and started taking all their authority. They marched around Jerusalem because they thought the word was broken, that God didn't keep His promises. And this is what they said. This is what the Jerusalem, it's either Targum or Talmud. This is what was written down in it. Woe unto us, for the scepter has departed from Judah, and the Messiah has not come. They were weeping as they walked around the city saying that. Woe unto us, for the scepter has departed from Judah, and the Messiah has not come. They believed the word of God had actually failed. And this was around 7 AD. They put on sackcloth and ashes. They wept. They mourned. Because, this thousands of years of it's broken. That's the way they viewed it. But there was something they didn't know. You see, not too far away, at about the age of 9 years old, in a carpenter shop was a young man. And his name was Jesus, born in Bethlehem. Do you see? I don't know how the Jews can't see this. The scepter shall not pass until Shiloh come. The Messiah had come. That right for capital punishment passed. So it lines up. This verse right here is talking about Jesus Christ. And this is many years before. Jacob's given this prophecy, and it did come to pass. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Verses 11 and 12 sound cryptic, okay? But what it's talking about is once that Messiah comes. Now this is referring to the millennial reign, okay? The wine fields will be so abundant, there will always be a place to tie up your animals. You see, great vineyards were a big deal. They were valuable, and they were, you could only grow them in certain places. But they're saying the vineyards are going to be so plentiful of an abundance that you won't have to look for a place. You just tie them on a grapevine. There'll be so many of them. That's kind of the reference here. Wine will be as abundant as washing water. Instead of they'll wash their clothes. They're not going to actually take their clothes and wash them in wine in the millennial reign. Okay? They probably wouldn't smell too good. But it's saying, just like the wine will be as abundant as washing water. It'll be that abundant. It's a land of plenty. There will be great joy, etc. Now here's one. The eyes will be red with wine. What does that mean? Does that mean they're stoned? No, that is not what it means. It's not going to be a state of drunken stupor during the millennial reign. When it says that, it means their eyes are going to be glowing. They're going to be sparkling. They're going to be light. People are going to be cheerful and joyful. That's what it means. That's what it means. The way Old English translates, I tell you. They will be bright, their eyes will be bright and sparkling, okay, because the wine, and when I say wine, but you can, all the pleasantries, all of the fine dining, all of the fine things in life will be in abundance, is what it's saying. And how can Jesus afford this? Well, many ways. One, he can speak. Number two, how much money is going to be spent on Defense Department? There will be no wars. So all that food can go to what? Given plenty. Think about it. If there even is money at the time, I don't know. Delicacies will be readily available, and it will be a time of abundance. And so Jacob, even though he may not have known it, was talking about the millennial reign in those verses. All right, verses 13 through 17. Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. Issachar is a strong ass, couching down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backwards. So Zebulun, the tribe of Zebulun, would be enriched by sea trade, trading on the seas and stuff. So that's where they would get their wealth and stuff, okay? So that's not bad. The tribe of Issachar would be forced to work for others. Their tribe was located in the fertile, broad, pleasant plain of Esdraelon. They were often subject to invading armies. The armies would come in, take all of their crops, all of their, and then leave. So they were subject to that, just as it was spoken here. Dan shows another disparity between a calling and an achievement. Dan was to provide justice. You remember what Dan's name means? To judge. To judge. So they were supposed to do that, but they chose treachery like a snake by the roadside. So they're going to choose the wrong way. Okay? In the time of the Judges, the book of Judges, the first major practice of idolatry appeared in which tribe? Dan. In the tribe of Dan. Verse 18. I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. Looks like Jacob kind of took a pause. And he's like, Lord, I have waited for your salvation. Why did he do that? You know, it's in the Bible. He interjects that, hey, I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for God's salvation. This may have served to indirectly remind his sons of their need for the dependence on the Lord. So their sons heard him say that and like, you know what? We've got to remember to keep our eyes on the Lord, to listen to him, to trust him, just like our Father has. Also, he could have been expressing his desire to enjoy the messianic hope when he would be delivered from all trouble and grief. See, old Jacob's going to be there with us. You know? It's like, I kind of equate that, if I think about it, to Paul's, to be absent from the body and to be present with the Lord. I think that's more of what Jacob is saying there. I can't wait. I can't wait for that salvation. Verses 19 through 21. Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Naphtali is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly works. Gad would be attacked by a raid of attackers, but he would attack back. Border raids were often experienced by the tribes that settled east of the Jordan River. So they crossed over, they had their inheritance, but borderlands, they would keep getting attacked from the border, just like Israel today. They get attacked by people around them. So it was something like that for Gad's tribe. Asher would be fertile and productive, providing rich food. And they were more on the northern part of Israel, but along the coast of the Mediterranean there. So they had a lot of plenty red or green grass and stuff. So they had plenty of food and supplied the others. Naphtali, like a deer, would be a free mountain people. And they settled northwest of the Sea of Galilee. And you can go and do some more in-depth search of each one of these tribes. This is just kind of a 50-mile high view of what's going on here with the tribes. 22 through 26. Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Even by the God of thy father, who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors, unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separated from his brethren. So who's treated really good here? Joseph. That was a great blessing, right? That was like the top one. Jacob told of victory and prosperity for Joseph's two tribes. Victory in battle would be experienced by Joshua, Deborah, Samuel, all of the tribe of Ephraim, by Gideon, and by Jephthah. And they were both of Manasseh's tribe. So they were known for having a lot of victories in combat, in battles. Joseph received the better blessing because he was considered the prince of all the brothers. He was the favorite, the coat of many colors. God blessed him. God built the nation through him. So he was like their prince. 27 and 28. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is it that their father spake unto them and blessed them. Every one according to his blessings he blessed them. So the tribe of Benjamin was going to be one like the ravaging wolf. It would be a tribe of violence. They were violent people. Okay? Violent in spirit, like a devouring wolf. Judges 20 tells of a Levite who cut up his wife that had been slain. Do you remember that? Remember he was traveling back home and he went to the city and the Benjamites came, and he gave them his wife. And when he left in the morning, they had left her at the door, right? So he loaded her up, he cut her up into pieces and sent her to all the other tribes. I don't know if you remember that story or not, but it was a gruesome story. And then all of the tribes of Israel come together and attack the tribe of Benjamin. And they almost wiped them out. They almost wiped them out. Only a few men survived. And then they had to give them daughters, which they said they would never do. So they had to find a way for them to get some women, to have some more children, to continue the tribe, because they almost eliminated the tribe of Benjamin. And don't forget, that's where Saul comes from. Did Saul have an evil spirit about him? Yeah, he did, right?
Now, Benjamin was the youngest.
He was the youngest, yes.
But he was also one of the favorites because he was just a brother.
Correct.
That's just odd that
But remember, he's been young for a lot of this time, so...
saying out of all the, it's just kind of sad.
Yeah, he didn't seem like a rowdy brother.
Right.
But, yeah, I know.
Or a lot more that seems like something should have happened.
You're going to have to save that one till you meet Jesus, because I don't know that answer.
It's just odd.
All right.
It's what it is, though.
We'll finish it up. And he charged them and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife, and there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field and of the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed and yielded up the ghost and was gathered unto his people. He died. He said, don't bury me here, because I'm in Egypt right now. When I die, you take me back to Canaan. That's where I want to be buried, where my grandfather was buried, where my father was buried, where my first wife was buried. That's where I want to be buried. Okay, and he made his son say that he would. That was his last charge to them. And I hope Laura don't need this, because I printed it off for her, I reckon, or she printed it in between my prints. Better save that one, huh? All right. Any questions on chapter 49? You can also do a little searching somewhere where there's a guy named Moses, and he also talks to the 12 tribes and kind of gives them a prophecy. It's good to read that and compare it to what Jacob said, because you'll see they'll line up, and it's just a little bit different, but they line up. So it's good to do that. Chapter 50, verses 1 through 6. And Joseph fell upon his father's face and wept upon him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. And the physicians embalmed Israel. And 40 days were fulfilled for him. For so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed. And the Egyptians mourned for him 60 days. And when the days of his mournings were past, Joseph spake unto the house of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, Lo, I die. In my grave which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan, there shalt thou bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again. And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury thy father, according as he had made thee swear. So he embalmed his father after he died. He wept over him, and then he had him embalmed. Now, usually the embalming period, what they have to do, and you have to read, you have to look at National Geographic or Discovery Channel to see how they embalm someone. I'm not going to talk about it, but they get that done. It usually takes about 40 days of preserving and procedures. Okay, so it takes about 40 days to do that. So they do it, and then they mourn for them, and it's usually about 40 days, and then they would put them in a tomb. For Jacob, Joseph's father, 70 days they mourned. 70 days. That shows how much they really loved Joseph and what he had done for them. It was only 2 days less than what they mourned for a Pharaoh when they died. So Jacob's mourning throughout the country was just 2 days shy of what a Pharaoh's usually ordered to be mourned for. So if that lets you know how much they respected him. So he got permission to go back and to bury his father. 7 through 9. And Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt. And all the house of Joseph, and his brethren, and his father's house, only their little ones and their flocks and their herds they left in the land of Goshen, which is down in Egypt. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. So this is a huge procession going from Egypt, the north part of the Nile there in Goshen, all the way up into Canaan to where that cave was, where Abraham was born. It was dignitaries, like the political people, the dignitaries. It was chariots. It was a lot of Egyptians, but it was also all of the Israelite, the families, most of them. But the little ones did stay behind and people to take care of them. But it was a large procession. How many years had it been since Joseph had been back in that land? 39 years. He had been gone for 39 years. And it would be centuries later before Israel would finally leave Egypt for good. And when they did finally leave, they're going to take the bones of Joseph with them. Do you think Joseph wants to be left in Egypt? It was important to bury Joseph in the same cave because it was kind of like a claim to the promised land. Hey, God said He's going to give us this land. This is our land. We paid for it. It's been promised to us. Because remember, when Abraham bought that land, it's like he was investing in it. He was showing the Lord, hey, I have faith. I'm going to buy some land here because I know it's going to be ours one day. So it was his way of showing it. 10 through 14. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan, and there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning, or a large funeral service, to the Egyptians. Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond Jordan. And his sons did unto him according as he commanded them. For his sons carried him into the land of Canaan, and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham bought with the field for possession of a burying place of Ephron the Hittite before Mamre. And Joseph returned into Egypt, he and his brethren, and all that went up with him to bury his father, after he had buried his father. So they're on the way up there. They're getting close, and they decide to stop at a threshing floor, right? Place where they got, remember, we talked about the threshing floor before. And the Canaanites still live in the land. Do you think the Canaanite leaders see this huge procession of Egyptians coming with chariots and with all these people? Absolutely they did. And then they stop and they have a funeral where they mourned greatly for 7 days. So that was quite the spectacle. That was quite the something to see. So they renamed that place Abel Mizraim, which means meadow of the Egyptians. And some say mourning of the Egyptians. Okay? And the Canaanites were like, this is a significant event. I mean, those Egyptians came up from Egypt. Most people go to Egypt. They came up. And so it was pretty significant. And so after he was buried, Joseph goes back to Egypt for his second time. And it was his brother's fourth time going to Egypt. Remember, they had to go back and forth a few times. All right, 15 through 21. And when Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead, I don't know what's going through their mind. And when Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead, they said, Joseph will peradventure hate us, and will certainly requite us all the evil which we did unto him. And they sent a messenger unto Joseph, saying, Thy father did command before he died, saying, So shall ye say unto Joseph, Forgive, I pray thee now, the trespass of thy brethren, and their sin, for they did unto thee evil. And now we pray thee, forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of thy father. And Joseph wept when they spake unto him. And his brethren also went and fell down before his face. And they said, Behold, we be thy servants. And Joseph said unto them, Fear not, for am I in the place of God? But as for you, ye thought evil against me. But God meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive. Now therefore fear ye not, I will nourish you, and your little ones. And he comforted them, and spake kindly unto them. Man, if all siblings were like that, that'd be all right, wouldn't it? No grudges. Hey, it's okay. Let bygones be bygones. God was in control the whole time, so he took care of everything. You sure about that? I'm sure. He was sure, right? But you can see, like, when the father's gone, they're like, uh-oh. Our brother still looks like an Egyptian. He's still one of the leaders. He may be like, now that dad's out the way. And he got the double portion. He could have done whatever he wanted. But he still had his eyes on who? God. He still had his eyes on God. He explained that he would not treat them harshly. Rather, he would take care of them and their children. All right, y'all ready, or y'all want to wait till next week? You got like 5 verses left. I like Sister Margaret back there. She's like, are you kidding me? All right. Verse 22. And Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his father's house, and Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the 3rd generation. The children also of Machir the son of Manasseh were brought up upon Joseph's knees. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I die, and God will surely visit you, and bring you out of this land into the land which he sware to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones from hence. So Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. Joseph and his family continued to live in Egypt until he was 110, and that's when he died. And like his father, he made his brothers promise, look, when y'all leave here, take my bones with you. He was put in a coffin, but he was like, look, when y'all leave, you take me with you. You take my coffin with you and bury me where I told you to bury me. But he kept reassuring them, You will be delivered. God will bring you out of this land. He kept reassuring them of that. And that was very important. He lived to see his great-great-grandchildren by Ephraim and his great-grandchildren by Manasseh. Like Jacob, Joseph was embalmed in Egypt. The book of Genesis closes with the promise of the land yet unfulfilled, but with the expectation of a visitation from on high. So they were expecting God. They were expecting God to come. Joseph's words, given twice, summarize the hope expressed throughout the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. God will surely come to your aid. Are we promised Jesus is coming back? He's returning for us? God will surely come to our aid. And that's basically what they were saying here. And that, brothers and sisters, is the book of Genesis. Whew. I don't know how many pages of study this is. I was going to print it out, but I didn't have time. So I was like, man, I'll just have to send this to Sister Renee and let her print it out. But yeah, it's a lot of pages. I mean, it's well over 200 pages. It's a lot, but I've had fun. Any comments or questions? What's next? Honestly, I've had some people make some suggestions, but I haven't really decided yet. I'm still praying on it. We'll find out next week, Lord willing. If we ain't already in heaven, right? Because listen, I'm still looking. Don't think old Pastor Dewayne ain't still looking. I'm still looking. Man, in the beginning. Remember that night? What we get through 2 verses? Whew. I don't know. There's a sense of accomplishment here, of finishing it up, you know. That's a big study. That was a lot. I mean, we covered 2,000, more than 2,000 years. We covered a lot of time. Anyways, I won't belinger it anymore. If everybody would please stand. I thank you for your attention. Brother Ricky, will you close us out in prayer, please?